Forward to the cloud. All right, guys, top of the morning. Good morning. Thanks for being here. Happy August 2nd, Wednesday. I'm coming to you excited. I'm coming to you full of passion, and I'm coming to you full of gratitude as always. Today is a powerful day for me as a person, as a human, and as a father. I just dropped my son off for his first day of kindergarten, and he got into his class and he sat right down. He said, "Hi, my name's Silas," and he remembered the teacher's name and he sat down. So it was a great start. But it also is a reflection of measurement of time. If you have children, you know that time is automatically sped up. And the way that our kids spell time with them is LOVE. And I want to make sure that no matter what's happening in our lives, like we get busy. We have things going on in our lives that are pulling us in all different directions, but all they want to do is eat popcorn with us on a Saturday night and have our phones off and just chill. So make sure that you guys are spending that special time. So you guys, I am excited for today. I am truly, truly pumped for you guys and for me because as always, I'm a student of this process as well. So before we get started, before I do an official introduction, as always, in true fast form, I'm going to have somebody bring us out on the field. And George, that is one of the team members bringing us out into battle, our haka dance, and getting the team ready for the day ahead. So I'm actually going to go to Lizette. Lizette, you always bring fire. No pressure at you for you at all. But Lizette, I'm going to have you bring the team out on the field today and also share with us one thing that you're super stoked on in your life right now. So let's go, Lizette.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. I am just super excited to learn from my peers today. I am really needing it because I am being challenged in all ways possible. So what I am excited for today is growth. I am really looking forward to expanding my mind, new ways of thinking. I'm excited to hear our speakers. So with that said, gentlemen, let's bring it. I'm ready to grow.
You better bring that fire and that energy. So you guys, as we get into official introductions, I want to encourage you guys to be present in this session. I want to encourage you guys to take notes, but most importantly, is I want you to truly, truly reflect on your entire journey with the consumer. And oftentimes when we think about a consumer journey, we're really looking at it from a process and a systems, and that's all good and well, and that's super, super important. But what I want you to analyze today is I want you to analyze the human part of what you are doing with your consumer. How are you connecting with them emotionally? What are the things that you know that the consumer is thinking about that we never mention because we don't want to bring it up for whatever reason? George has an amazing way of looking at this through his model that relationships beat algorithms. He has taught and still teaches and will always teach this method that I think is super, super powerful. It helped us in our own organization really look at our processes, how we're connecting with our agents. And for you guys, this is going to be a really great opportunity for you to analyze, unpack, and really redefine the way that you're connecting with a consumer. So I had never met George, and I got that opportunity to meet George a couple months back, and he was a keynote speaker at the Play Bigger Mastermind in Arizona. And I'll tell you what, you guys, I could still remember the moments and I could still remember the feelings. And I remember looking around at the crowd and seeing people, how they were connected with his message and how he cut through any falseness, any pretentiousness, and was able to talk directly to the human. I promise you, when he was on stage, it felt like he was talking to one person. And I'm still building off of the things that he's taught me then, taught me last week, and I'm going to be a student for a very long time. So I'm really excited to have him in our world. So I'm just going to turn the mic over to you. I'm going to be here. I'm going to take notes. So George Bryant, we could not be more excited to have you here. So let me turn the mic over to our special guest, George Bryant. Let's go.
Thank you, brother. And have your unmute button close by in case I bring you in to be my hype man or add some credibility based on your knowledge and skill sets. And for everybody here, thank you for being here. One big thing is I'm going to set some ground rules. I'm going to set some containers, and I'm going to treat this like we're in a room together. So thank you all for having your video on. It means the world to me. I'm incredibly honored, and just thank you for having me as a guest on this group coaching to keep it moving. Like Elias, you're an absolute gem, my friend. The way that you speak into people, the way that you speak into their hearts, the way that you speak into their life, and the way that you lead by example. It's a true, true, true honor to be here. So I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And for everybody here, thank you. I want to set some context and ground rules real quick and kind of give you an overview of like what I'm going to share with you and why. So number one, I'm like a circus monkey. So the more that happens in the chat, the better I perform. The less that happens, the less I perform. This is kind of a pay to play model. So the more you play, the more you don't have to pay me to give you the answers that I'm about to give you for free. Wish I was joking, but I'm being dead serious. And so pay attention, ask questions, engage. I'm one of those guys that loves hecklers because it tells me how you're thinking, how you're feeling, and allows me to adjust my answers to make this about you. And that brings us to the second part. Today's call is about you, not me, you. I've been doing this for 20 years. I know what I'm doing. There's an accolade sheet behind me that you can Google. I don't give a fuck about it. It doesn't mean anything. It just means that I've taught a whole lot more companies and a whole lot more people how to focus on what matters. And because of that, they celebrate me. But what we're really celebrating is the fact that we're helping people achieve the things that they want to achieve. And we're the byproduct that wins because they win and we win. Okay. So one of the ways that I like to teach, I don't know if any of you people are like me, but I know we have a lot of realtors and lenders here. And I used to live in that world, but I also like to learn lessons by smashing my face into a wall until I get the lesson. And so I like to teach an inversion theory, right? And so I want to say this to you now, and this is very, very important. For the first part of this call, before we get into Q&A, I want to invite everybody up to like 30,000 feet with me, right? I know it's really, really easy when I start talking and I start throwing ideas out and I start dropping one-liners to be like, oh my God, my business is broken. Oh my God, I don't know. Oh, I have to go fix this. I have to redo everything. I have to throw it out in the trash. And I say, fuck all that noise. No, you don't. The reason the things that I'm going to share today are going to land for you is because you've done everything in your power to have the ability to see this now. That means that what you have has worked. It's about making adjustments. And Elias can speak to this ad nauseum, but it's very, very important to me. Most of my industry is out here to convince you that everything you're doing is broken. Everything you're doing is wrong. You need another step for this, another funnel for this, another system for this. I'm here to tell you that everything you're doing is most likely working, but there's levels of depth that can be added that most people aren't taught. And just like the kindergarten example, when I had my first child, I don't care how many books you read, I don't care how many parenting classes you go to, nothing can prepare you for that 7th week of no sleep, middle of the night, just not even understanding what's happening and being able to function, right? And this is a game where in entrepreneurship, and especially in your world is very transactional. So it just so happens to be that when you understand these principles, and these principles are simple, Elias will tell you, they're simple in understanding and they're complex in mastery and execution, but it's something that you will come back to over and over and over again. And the benefit that all of you have in that is if you stay with me at 30,000 feet, you're going to realize that you're going to be able to run circles around other people that you're competing with or that are in your industry by having these awarenesses. And so the big thing for me is as I start to teach and I start to talk, I teach an inversion theory. So I'm going to teach you like the 3 biggest mistakes that people make, and I will talk to you about them. I will give you examples for them, but I want you to use the chat. I want you to tell me like, oh my God, that's me, or what about this, or I have this idea, right? And the most important thing that you can take from today, and Elias will tell you, I didn't even frame my last calls like this, but I'm kind of giving you the keys to the kingdom here. The way that you win after today's call is not getting off this call and thinking that everything's broken, thinking that you have to redo everything. It's by getting off this call with a new awareness and some tools in your toolbox to go back to look at where you're already spending your time, where you have processes, where you have customer journeys, where you have communication, and then adding these pieces into what's existing to make it better. And so I wanted to invite everybody and lead you a little bit in that horse because it will make it more effective. And I have plenty of people on this call that I know personally. Dom, good to see you. Norman, Elias, people that have seen me. Anybody here who's experienced this before has probably seen this happen in reality. So you're very supportive from people on this call, but I wanted to lay that groundwork. Now, from this point, I probably forgot like 100 rules and I'll remember them as I go, but I don't prepare any of this. It's just off the top of my head and I trust whatever comes out, comes out. So I am not a good picture drawer. And sometimes I put my iPad up, but I prefer to paint with words. So I'm going to paint with words. Now, I know that a lot of you live in the realty world, lender, broker, you're in production, you're in all those things. I'm going to talk in principles. I'm going to use examples that apply to your world, but they also apply to physical products worlds, just so you can see different meanings and different realities for people. So if I can get like a visual thumbs up or a nod or a head, like, yes, this guy's crazy, I want to get off the call, or yep, okay, cool. And by the way, there's always like 5 of you that are like, this guy's psycho. You're right. But I just promise my level of crazy will support you if you stick around. Okay. So that would be my spiel. So now let's get into it, because I prefer speaking to you guys and doing Q&A. So first, I want everybody to write these 3 mistakes down on a piece of paper, on a notebook somewhere. Okay. And I'm going to give them to you. I call them the triangle of death. Okay. Very, very rightly named. These are the 3 critical mistakes that people make. And Elias is going to hear this for the 100th time, and it will still make sense. So number 1 is called the zone of doubt. Okay. Number 1 is called the zone of doubt. So just write down the word zone of doubt. Number 2 is called the inverse journey. The inverse journey. And then number 3 is called the drown the journey. And those are the 3 mistakes. And I'm going to explain them to you, and I'm going to paint a little bit of a picture here, right? So I meet a lot of people, and I mean millions and millions of entrepreneurs at this point, and they all typically fall into the same bucket of pain points. And somebody has this semblance of an idea. My business is stuck. My business is struggling. My production's stuff. I'm overwhelmed with time. I just need more clients. I just need more clients, right? And that is the typical number 1 thing. I need more customers. I need more clients. But yet what they fail to recognize is that if I was to add 100 more clients into the ecosystem that you have, you're going to bleed more out of the back than you can put in the front. And eventually the damage is done. Because the biggest mistake that people have in business is they think that their biggest problem is they can't find their next customer. They can't find their next lead. They can't find their next home buyer. But what they fail to recognize is that they find them, but then once they have them, they do nothing with them. The biggest fear in your business isn't that you can't find somebody. It's that you found somebody who bought your product, your service, joined your program, listed a home, and didn't get the result that you promised. That is the number 1 detriment to companies. So a tangible example is, ladies, you see this all the time. How many of you have spent months and months looking at a product to use for skincare, for fitness, for health, for nutrition, and literally felt like that company was your best friend? And then the moment you gave them their credit card, it was bananas and ghost town, right? You got dropped into the black hole, and then you only heard from them when they wanted to sell you another product. They didn't care if you used it. They didn't care in the results. And then you've all had that experience. Men, you've had it on the supplement side, everywhere else, right? And it's so funny when I share that example for all the head nods. You're like, yeah, the biggest problem in that business isn't finding more of me. They couldn't keep me in the first place. They basically catfished me at the altar. They're like, yeah, we're going to help you with this. We're going to help you with this. We're going to help you with this. And then you show up and runaway bride didn't even happen because she never fucking made it to the church, because they weren't interested in coming in the first place, right? So it's very, very important to understand what our goal is. And to give a specific example, and I know Elias can lend this as well, we forget that when somebody reaches out to list a home, to buy a home, the fact that they chose to reach out to us in the first place means that they've looked at 20, 30 other different places, other different options, and we're not the only one. And we've all seen this. So we know that the moment that attention is paid to us, they're interested in something. We just don't know what yet, if it's the right time, but our relationship with that person and how they feel in that interaction is what dictates whether they come back and whether or not they tell their friends, right? And so I think it's very, very important to understand some philosophies of how I see business. Number 1 is every human being is my customer. It's just a matter of when, right? So one of my philosophies is that our job is not to find our ideal customer. It's to create them. And what I simply mean by that is that if somebody comes to you and say, hey, I'm interested in listing a home, there's a few things that need to be done. They might be a fit, they might not be a fit. But even if we realize they're not a fit, could we give them something in 5 minutes of our time that would empower them to be better at listing their home or getting a result, which would lead to a positive relationship and save that, right? And so when we start to understand what happens in the world of business and the world of marketing, it gets really, really powerful. And yes, those mistakes are still an open loop I will get to in a minute, but all of this what and the why is very, very important to you. Okay, so I'm going to give you some statistics here. As of 2023, this year, 93% of marketing is word of mouth. 93% as of 2023. Now, that is either going to do one thing to you or another thing. It's either going to excite you or it's going to scare the shit out of you, because you're in one of two buckets. One bucket is like, God, I know everybody who experiences us, talks about our brand, DMs us, has an experience, has something positive to say when they leave. And you're like, yeah, let's go more of it. Or you're in the other bucket where most people are like, oh shit, I've left all 40 of those unread. I haven't responded to that email. I literally didn't give them the time because they didn't fit. Oh, I wouldn't be happy if I put 1,000 of the last people I talked to in a room and asked them how they felt about me, right? So when you have that awareness, that's where these mistakes come in. But it's important to understand that in the game of business, in the game of marketing, call it whatever you want to call it, underneath it all at a very principal level, there's only one thing that you are actually monetizing, and it's attention. And you're only monetizing it to build a solid relationship agnostic of transaction. That is foundational piece number one. Because a human being needs a few things to happen in order to feel safe to move forward. They need to feel safe, they need to feel seen, they need to feel heard, and they need to feel respected. And all of you on this call know exactly what I'm talking about when somebody comes to buy their first home and they've never bought a home before. They're not moving towards pleasure. They're moving away from pain. Everything in their life is hard. They don't know where they're going to get the money. They don't know how to log into their bank accounts. They don't know how to qualify. They don't know what a loan is, a Fannie Mae, a MAC, a variable interest rate. They don't know what any of those things are. And we think that they're ready to buy a home, but what they're really doing is looking for evidence to feel safe so that they can move through that process. And that's what we're doing at like a deep, deep, deep core level. And all the way up to the fact that Elias and I were on a call the other day, and I went on a little bit of a tirade because I've bought and built many homes, but it still happens at my level where people don't make me feel safe and make me reach out and make me chase down answers, which destroys their business, because they don't just lose me. They lose me and my 15 friends that are also investing in that town that are no longer going to use them, just simply because they didn't prioritize the human over the transaction. And so I said something on a call the other day that Elias wrote down and he shared, and I don't remember what it is, but here's basically what it is. If you prioritize the relationship, the process will take care of itself, because at worst, you just have to add a step or rejig a process, but the human being is the one who's going to tell you that, right? So these things happen because of these three mistakes, okay? So mistake number one is called the zone of doubt, okay? Do not try to write this down. This is straight for my ego because it was a fire piece of copy that I wrote and I love the definition, so I memorized it, okay? So the zone of doubt is the space between the opt-in, credit card purchase, or exchange of information where the dopamine is wearing off. The longer that zone exists, the faster the undercurrents of your customers or potential customers' anxieties and doubts take over, deteriorating both of your chances of success, right? So that's a very idiotic way of saying buyer's remorse and getting rid of buyer's remorse, but I'll give you some tangible examples, right? So for those people that live on the internet, all of us, have you ever bought a product, bought a service, or opted in for something and then went to look for it and then it wasn't there when they said it would be there, and then you had to go find it, right? You bought a course on the internet and then you're the one that doesn't get the email and you're out chasing that company like, hey, I bought a course. How can I get into it? I bought a course. Where do I access it? Hey, I opted in for a lead magnet. Where did you send it? Has anybody had an experience like that? 1,000%, right? That is called the zone of doubt. Now, let me ask you this, and you can just put your hand up. Before that happened, when you opted in, you were in a heightened emotional state, because every buying decision, every opt-in decision is a heightened emotional state. And the moment you hit submit, there was excitement in your body. And the excitement was, yes, I'm so excited. I want to learn from them. This is the thing that I need. And then the longer it took to find the thing, that excitement turned to resentment. And it turned to evidence collection about how that thing wouldn't work, or how those people weren't the people to work with, just simply because they didn't keep their word and manage expectations. That's the zone of doubt, right? So think about when you are giving a keynote or you meet somebody and you're like, oh my God, it was so nice to meet you. I'll send you that thing in an hour. And then you don't send it for 18 hours. What you fail to recognize is that in that gap of 17 hours, you passed the contract that you negotiated and the expectation that they needed to feel safe to close the loop. And so everything past that point is evidence's collection as to why they should leave. And I see all of you going hands in the air. Holy shit. Yeah. And the moment you put it through the lens of you and then understanding what's happening on the other side, you're like, oh, I don't have a getting a customer problem. I don't have a getting attention problem. I have a building a relationship problem deeper than the transaction. So that definition again, for everybody who asked, the zone of doubt is the space between the opt-in, exchange of information, or credit card purchase where the dopamine is wearing off. The longer that zone exists, the faster your customer's undercurrent of anxiety and doubts take over, deteriorating both of your chances of success. That's what that zone is, right? And so I can also, and I just put your hand up in the air right now, if in me just teaching you that mistake, you realize that you already know how to fix it and can fix it today in the places that you feel out of integrity, right? Anybody? Okay, got it. Nailed it. That's what we want, right? That's what we want, because what we have to understand is that the human being is the one making the decision, right? No matter what, none of you would give AI the ability to spend credit cards on your behalf yet. None of you would blindly let it go in on logical. It's all based on emotion, right? And a human being needs to feel safe, seen, and heard. But really what it boils down to is communication, expectations, and keeping our words, right? Because, for example, if Elias, and he did, saw me keynote and came up and connected with me after, and I wanted to connect with Elias, I'd be like, Elias, I would love to send you this. I'm going to be on the road for the next 3 days. And so I'll send it in 6 days. And in the interim, you can do X, Y, and Z. And all of a sudden, because I just painted the picture and managed the expectation, when Elias is getting hit up from other people, he's like, oh, no, I got my answer. I'm waiting. I have this to do. This is when it's coming. And then when it comes, it's clear. And when it comes, it's another evidential piece of touch point to create endowment, which is what creates relationships, right? Because the other byproduct that happens and the collateral damage that happens is when you build transactional relationships, bringing people into your business, the moment they are no longer in pain for the thing that they needed you for, you no longer have a relationship and they leave your business. And it's a very, very deep, deep piece of collateral damage. But on the inverse, when you understand this, I started as a food blogger in 2009, and now I'm like the top customer journey marketing expert, heart-centered, woo-woo, whatever you want to call me that I won't label myself, in that gap. And I have people from 2009 who are food bloggers who still listen to my podcast and come to my events, even though they will not buy and cannot buy my courses because they're not applicable, because of how they felt when I responded to a message for them on Facebook 14 years ago. And so when you start to understand this game, the game happens at an exponential scale when you build a relationship with the human underneath the transaction or underneath the priority. So mistake number 1 is called the zone of doubt. Okay. Is everybody clear? Tracking head nods like zone of doubt makes sense? Got it, right? So some tangible ways to fix that. And I'll give you some of them all day. You might get 100 DMs on Instagram in a day, and you might know that there's things that you want to send them and you can't send them yet right now. And so I would go in and have my team be like, hey, we're working on this. We're going to make this resource for you. We're going to send it in the next 3 days. And in the interim, you have this, right? So the solution to the zone of doubt is really just managing expectations. But the reason we struggle as entrepreneurs, no matter what bucket you're in, is because we forget how far removed we are from the current state our customers are living in. And that is not a fault of your own. That is called growth and progress. But if we take a minute to realize that, yes, we're the ones helping them. We're the ones listing the home. We're the ones selling the home. We're the ones handing them off to the broker. We're doing the loan processing. We're doing all of it. We've done it thousands of fucking times. Thousands of times. And yet we're treating them and teaching them like they have too. And we expect them to maintain that same standard. But what ends up happening is it creates more reactance and evidence that they can't do it. And then it feels harder than it should have. And most of the time leaves them feeling worse than when they started. And so it really, really boils down to understanding that you're building a relationship with humans. And I'll give some examples later. Step number 2, or mistake number 2, is called the inverse journey. Okay. I want everybody to write this down, highlight it, write it in all caps, everything. Your customers or potential customers' results will tell them everything they need to know about you. Your customers or potential customers' results will tell them everything they need to know about you. And what I mean by that is that if any touch point of a customer journey where you are sending information, once you have their information, once you have their phone number, once you have their email, once you have any of it, the word I should never be included unless it's I'm helping you with this. And I will give you a tangible example of this, okay? So ladies, I'm going back to you with skincare because it lands for everybody, okay? Same example, you buy this new collagen with hyaluronic acid to make your face, wrinkles, crow's nests, whatever, go away, right? You get courted for 90 days about how amazing this is and how we want you to have beautiful skin from the inside out and boom, 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 right? And then you buy the product. And literally you buy the product and the first email you get goes something like this. And Elias, I'm going to pick on you, but I'll pick a name. I'll pick Amy. And it says, hey, Amy, thank you so much for buying our new collagen with hyaluronic acid. I want to take a minute to tell you why it's so amazing. I founded the company 20 years ago, and I've spent the last 16 years of my life scouring the jungles to find the last hidden ingredient of hyaluronic acid. I took it, I bought all of it, and got my 7 board certified physicians on board so that I can pretend to want to care about selling you this product, but all I'm doing is talking about me and not realizing the fact that you already bought the product. And now I'm basically becoming a narcissist and giving you all the reasons to not continue to use it because you now realize that when I bought it, I didn't care in the first place because now all you're doing is talking about yourself and not me and my results. How many people have seen that email, have seen that, have felt that in a video, after a mastermind, after a coaching program? That's the inverse journey, because the other side and how you fix it is along the lines of closing the zone of doubt as well as making it about them. And it goes along the lines of, Amy, how does it feel to already have healthier hair, skin, and nails, even though the product hasn't shipped yet? Truth be told, is our product isn't from the fountain of youth. It's just a tool that you can use with all these other pieces that will help you feel better and have the skin of your dreams. But just because you bought, it means that you've already started and you're already there. We are going to take the next couple of days to get to work, packing your product, getting it shipped out, but we're also going to educate you on how to get the most out of it, recipes you can use, other foods you can do, how to maximize your sleep and nutrition so that you can make this stick and make it stick forever. But today, it's just about you celebrating because you had a beautiful day. So go celebrate, tag us on Instagram, and we'd love to cheer on the journey with you, right? Boom. Which one would you rather get? 1 or 2? 2, right? But here's what's funny. How many of you would love that, stick with that company, support that product because of that one email, and yet I know nothing about you and nothing about the product whatsoever, but yet all of you said yes? What you have to understand is that the success of your business, the success of your customers is 99% context and 1% content. The content's the easiest part, but your message is only as powerful as the person receiving it, ability to understand it and implement it, right? And so by speaking to the person's ability and after state, what I'm doing is empowering them, but also keeping them accountable to what it is we have to offer. So I'll give you another tangible example. I get sent DMs on Instagram all the time, asking for customer journey training, asking for mindset training. Do you think I just hit reply and send a link? No, that's not my job. My job's to lead the relationship. So like, hey, Amy, I'm so stoked that you're interested in our mindset training. And I just want to acknowledge you for sending me a DM on Instagram. Like, it means the world to me. And I want to send the training, but I want to make sure you can get the most out of it. So have this, and then here's the link. And when you're done, here's exactly what to do so we can help you next. And so the moment I send those, I'm putting a plan into place. But what you have to recognize is that I'm always making it about the person, because the moment I have your attention, I've already done all the work needed to convince you to come on a blind date with me. Now that you're there, the rest of it is about my state of being for you to feel like I was exactly how I offered myself up and I marketed myself up to be consistent and congruent, but we lose when we make it about the transaction. So the second mistake is called the inverse journey. And so the easiest way to think about that one is any moment when you want to say I, and you can go to you, you're already doing this. You're going to achieve this. This is going to be the easiest home buying person. You already have most of this done. This will be blank. You're telling them everything they need to know about you. You're just doing it in the right way by example, because it's show, don't tell. Use the actions and use the words to show them that you're being congruent. So that's mistake number 2, okay? Mistake number 3, I had you write this one down. It's called drown the journey. This is the old George special, okay? Best way to describe this one is for any of you that have ever bought a course on the internet, okay? Sorry, I'm going to gaslight some people here. You're going to have guilt. Don't worry about it. You get to fix it. But has anybody ever seen this? Like, hey, thank you so much for buying my $2,000 course. And then the first email you get is, hey, now that you bought, I need you to whitelist my email, fill out your bio, send me these 62 things, log into this, watch these 4 videos, and do an introduction to a video, and then we'll get you on a call in 6 days. Has anybody seen those? Yeah. Has anybody done those? Yeah. Me too. Guilty, right? Guilty. I learned all of this because I did it all wrong, and then I fixed it, right? But then what ends up happening down the road is that then that client gets on a call and says, I'm behind. This isn't good. But instead of empathizing, we gaslight them and we tell them it's because they didn't do the work. Well, you didn't fill out the bio. You didn't put up the info. And how many people have done that? Right? Yeah. But if that was happening in a relationship, you would call the cops on your husband for being emotionally abusive, narcissistic, and gaslighting. But yet we think it's okay to do to the people that pay to keep our lights on, and think that we can get them over the finish line by just marketing the work, but not building a program or a journey to hold them accountable to getting it done. And so that is a giant mistake, because the message is only as effective as the person's ability to hear it and implement it in that moment. So in the world of marketing, in the world of business, in the world of people having customers, it falls into one of 2 buckets. People either moving away from pain or towards pleasure. Well, let me just make the game really easy for you. 99.9% of the people that you interact with are moving away from pain. But you have a different pain than they have. And the pain that they have is very early stages of your career. But you have to remember that when somebody buys your course, when somebody comes to list a home, when somebody hires you to be their listing agent or their broker, we like to operate and think that they have nothing but time in their life. But the truth is the 5 minutes it took them to reach out to you was the only 5 minutes they had. And then we give them an hour's worth of homework that gets in the way, and none of it gets done. And now it feels heavier and heavier on them, just simply because we didn't have the patience to break down the structure or put it in a way that people could achieve it. So for example, and I'm going to teach you these 5 steps because it's Elias's group and I have to, but there's 5 steps and 5 principles that I include at every single step of every customer journey. But let's take that hyaluronic acid skincare example, since everybody resonates with that one, right? I know that when I sell Amy that hyaluronic collagen, I'm going to want her to have a couple recipes. I'm going to want her to have a shaker cup. I'm going to want her to put it at a certain place. I'm going to tell her what habits and things to change. But if I'm shipping a product and I have 6 days until it arrives, do I need to tell her all that in one email that's 2,600 words long that overwhelms her that she's not going to read in the first place? No, of course not, right? But if I acknowledge her on day 1 and I'm like, hey, Amy, congratulations. How's it feel to already be there? You already have healthier hair, skin, and nails. And truth be told, you didn't need our product in the first place. But now that you have it, it's going to speed up the process. But today, I just want you to celebrate, because tomorrow I'm going to give you a few things to prepare to get the most out of the product, like where to store it, where to use it, and our favorite tips and tricks so that you can get the most out of it, right? And then day 2 comes and I prepare her. Hey, the product shipping. Hey, it'll be coming out, but here's the biggest mistake people make. They put it in their pantry and shelf help doesn't work. Put it on your counter next to your car keys so you remember to scoop it into your water on your way out the door, right? And then the 3rd step is I project into her future. And I'll teach you these in a minute. And I'm like, hey, Amy, by the way, I know you've probably bought other products and bought other collagen, but you've never been more prepared anyways, because if you just simply put it on the counter, that environmental design will social trigger you into keeping it, and you'll be tricking yourself into having the most beautiful skin that you've ever seen. So when you continue to do this and you take it consistently and you use it like this, that's how you're going to win the game. And then the fourth step is I pre-handle. So, hey, by the way, Amy, these are some of the mistakes people make. A lot of women ask us why it doesn't work. Well, that's because they take it inconsistently and not long enough. So here's the secret. Even if you miss a day, just jump back on the bandwagon, because people see the best results when using it for 90 days. Well, what happens if I don't like how it tastes? Oh, that's why we made it like that. It's completely tasteless. You can put it in coffee. You can put it in water. You can put it in smoothies, and you can even sneak it in your kids' soups to give them 20 grams of protein that they didn't know was coming, right? And the moment I start saying this to all of you, you're like, yeah, that's what I want, right? But notice how all of it's context, right? And it's just taking the time to break it down in a way that people can achieve it and implement it. And the reason entrepreneurs struggle is because we get so addicted to the new thing, the process, the thing that we're doing, that we forgot what it was like back here. And we have to slow down for a minute and realize that if we have 20 things for somebody to accomplish, or 5 things for somebody to accomplish, our job is to translate it. Their job is not to decipher it. So if we know that those 5 things exist, it's our job as the leader, as the authority, as the person they're hiring, as the person they're paying, to say, yes, we got you. Here's step 1, and then step 2, and then step 3. And so an example I would give you is, if any of you had the choice between hiring 2 personal trainers, and personal trainer A said, hey, I need you to do squat, deadlift, and bench. Good luck. And personal trainer said, hey, we're going to be doing squat, deadlift, and bench, but here's your workouts for the first 4 weeks. Here's your workouts for the next 4 weeks, and then we'll make an adjustment. You're always going to pick trainer B. But trainer B is not giving you anything different than trainer A. And that's what you have to understand, is that your information, the things that you're helping people with, are only as effective as their ability to understand it and be excited to put that workout into progress. And anything else is on you. And so those are the 3 mistakes. And so I'm going to say this very aggressively. If every one of you commits to just thinking about those mistakes in each of your processes, in each of your interactions, in each of the places that you speak to people, I promise you that your business will drastically increase in ways that you've never seen by just having an awareness of them. But it also means that you have to be willing to sit with them and challenge your processes and challenge your things. And it's not about complication. This is not about, oh, I need to go reinvent the wheel. This is about, oh, there's a hole there. Let's plug the hole. Let's see how that works. And then let's make a process around it, right? And so people ask how this looks like. Elias sees me do this on Instagram all the time. I know that every time somebody follows me on Instagram, they followed other people that day, right? I'm not the only person they followed, right? So the moment they follow me on Instagram, there's a zone of doubt being created, even though it's not one that's a pain point in my business, it's an opportunity. So once a day, at the end of the day, I open my phone and I record a 25-second video that says, hey, Elias, I just want to take a minute to say thanks for following me on Instagram. I'm sending this video to you and everybody else who followed me today, but it's really, really important because there's a lot of noise in the world. And for whatever reason, you chose to find mine. And I'd love to know what inspired you to add my slice of crazy. The moment you respond to this video, I will send you a personalized message, but this is my way of filtering people out. But it's still important to me that you feel acknowledged and seen for following me. So have a beautiful day, and I can't wait to hear back from you. Right? I record that every single night. It takes me 25 seconds, and then it takes one of my team members 2 minutes to send that out 88 times. What do you think happens when somebody who followed 50 people on Instagram that day, and one of them shows up in their inbox with a video message thanking them for following? They do not remember one other person that they followed. They do not know that they exist. They have a personal connection. And then magically, it's like bananas that the day after I send those videos for the next week, those are the first people commenting on every new piece of content that I put out. And then understandably, that's where things start to happen. So I also record a video at the end of the day that says, thank you so much for sharing my content, because I understand that your people are people that you trust, and you took the time to share my message with them. And so if I can support you in any way, if I can answer any question for you, or you have any topics you want me to cover on the podcast that might help you, please just reply and let me know. But I wanted to say thank you. So then every person who tags me on Instagram every day, who takes something and tags it and takes something who shares it, gets that video. And then they also tell me exactly what topics they want me to talk about on my podcast, exactly what they want me to talk about in my story, exactly what they want me to talk about in my reels. And they're telling me what their problems are. And then they're telling me what content I should make that they would share for me for free because it helped them with their audience. That's 46 seconds of my day, just right off the bat, by just understanding the market, the things that exist and the opportunity that's out there. Just like a lot of you get DMs on Instagram and Facebook every day, just like everybody else in your market. A lot of you get text messages, right? Elias will tell you, good luck getting a text from me that doesn't include a video. Good fucking luck. 90% of my text messages are video, because I also understand that when most people are communicating, they're communicating transactionally back and forth. And I pattern interrupt with like, hey man, thank you for texting me. I appreciate it. And I would love to help you with this. Let me send this video real quick and do boom, 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 boom. And if you're in the hustle and grind all day and you're in the Facebook DMs and you're in the Instagram DMs and you're in the text DMs, and all of a sudden this dude with pink glasses and tattoos that cusses a lot, that swears he loves people at heart, shows up with a video, there's something that stands out. And you have to remember that every single thing in a relationship, every single thing that triggers us or anchors us into a human relationship is an emotional based decision. And it's when we heighten emotions that people stick and it becomes a catalyst for change. And so I'm just sharing with you like 3 things that I do in like a matter of 1 minute a day as to the reason why everyone's like, George, but how do you make so much money? And you only have 11,000 Instagram followers. I'm like, oh, you forget I deleted 2 million social media followers because I wanted to start over for the right reasons, because it was never about width and it was always about depth. I don't care how many people like my Instagram content. I don't care how many followers I have. That's not the point of it. I have free billboard advertisement every single day that I can put whatever the fuck I want on it, and I get people driving by. I don't care how many people see it. I care that when the right people see it, they can move in and then come into our bucket. Okay. So with the 5 required principles, and I want everybody to write these down, and I'm going to give you like a 5-minute class on these. These are the 5 principles and steps that I include in every single step of a customer journey, every phone call, every Instagram DM, every single video message, everything. They can be done individually. They can be done together. And I will explain this. Okay. The 5 steps are this in order: acknowledge, prepare, project, pre-handle, and excite. And those are the 5. And so to give you an example, and I'm going to use the collagen example, is that because I'm selling a collagen and I know I want that relationship to last for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, if I have the ability to send an email a day versus 1 email, I'm going to send an email a day because it's more touch points, it's more endowment, it's more consistency, right? So on day number 1, I acknowledge Amy. Hey, Amy, I'm acknowledging that the decision that you just made was the right decision. Hey, Amy, how's it feel to have healthier hair, skin, and nails already, even though the product hasn't shipped? That is also me saying, hey, Amy, thank you for buying, except I'm saying in a way that supports Amy. If somebody DMs me on Instagram, like one of you today, says, hey, George, I want your customer journey training, you will see this. And the first thing I will do is like, hey, Elias, thank you for shooting me a DM on Instagram and asking me for my customer journey training. That acknowledge step, what it does psychologically is it closes the open loop that was existing in the pain point or in the evolution that they were in, right? That's called the Zeigarnik effect. And the Zeigarnik effect is when somebody has an open loop, it creates unresolved subconscious conflict that prevents them from feeling safe and moving forward. And so for people out here that give out lead magnets and then don't deliver on the lead magnet and try to get people to buy something, the reason they can't buy is because they physically can't buy, because they have an open loop on that lead magnet. So the acknowledge step closes the loop and whatever's happening before. You meet somebody at a conference after they get off stage. The first thing I did it to Dom. Sorry, Dom, I'll pick on you for a minute. Dom came up to me and was like, hey man, I have a question. I was like, hey man, first, I just want to take a minute to acknowledge you for like coming up and even asking me and being so open and vulnerable. It's at every single step in every single place, because it's the secret to allowing a human being to feel seen and then safe. So that's what the acknowledge step does. Okay. The prepare step is just preparing them for the next workout set or the next evolution or the next thing. And so if you're DMing me on Instagram for my customer journey training, I'm just preparing you for the customer journey training. If you bought my collagen and I acknowledge you for buying my collagen, the next thing I'm preparing you for is for the collagen's arrival to get the most out of it. So the prepare step is like, hey, I'm about to send you this training, Dom. It's only 12 minutes and it's a video and I don't even need your email. But when you watch the training, I want you to do this and this to get the most out of it. And I'm just preparing for whatever it is I'm going to give them, okay? The project step is what paints the picture of what's possible when they complete whatever it is that you're preparing them for. So Dom, I'm going to keep picking on you. You send me a customer journey thing like, hey, George, send me your customer journey training. Like, hey, Dom, first, thanks for DMing me on Instagram and asking, because I don't think most people who listen to my podcast knew how the DMs worked, but thanks for being one of them. And I'm stoked to send you the customer journey training, man. It's incredible. It's only a 15-minute video. I have it in a Word document. And I want you to understand this, though. Most people will convince you there's another answer, but I'm telling you that at the end of this 15-minute video, you will understand customer journey and be able to apply it into your business instantly, as long as you write down what I say. And so that's me projecting and painting the picture of like, hey, remember, this is what you committed to? Oh, by the way, you're prepared to get it. Oh, by the way, when you do what I said, this is what's going to be possible for you. The pre-framing also helps them tune into what they've never seen before and see things as wins that were losses, right? So I'm just projecting out. So then the pre-handle is like, and by the way, Dom, I've sent this to a lot of people and a lot of them don't watch. And it's up to you if you watch it or not, but I will tell you this, that the answers are in the video and the only way to find them is to hit play. And so please don't message me back asking me a question if you haven't watched the video, because the first thing I'm going to ask you is, did you watch the video? And I promise I'm sweeter now than when you answer no to that question. So Dom, now that you have everything you need to go. Here's a link to the video and let me know when you're done if you need any help with X, Y, and Z. And so if Dom was sending me that interaction on Instagram, I would reply to that in one video. It would be 30 seconds to 45 seconds because it matches just the frame of that journey. But if somebody comes to me and they're like, hey, I want to buy my first ever home, I'm not going to go through all 5 of them for the entire home buying process. I'm going to go through all 5 of them to just the first step, which would be them coming into my office and sitting down to meet my team and feel safe with the family that's going to help their family have their forever home. And so I would acknowledge them in that moment of like, dude, it is so good to meet you. And I love it. I'm so glad that you came up to me after this keynote. And I'm even more excited about you buying your first home because I remember what mine felt like. And truth be told, we're not like many people. It's so easy to get your phone number, to get your email, and to do all that, but we're a family. And the most important thing for me is that you know ours. And so I'd love to schedule a time to get you into the office to meet our team and to meet our family. And then even if you decide not to buy a home with us, we'll be able to give you everything you need that will help you make this easier for you with whoever you decide to work with. Boom. I would just say it in a conversation. I would get them into the home, right? So just in context, by the way, Elias will tell you these 5 steps I normally teach over 8 hours. So I'm giving you a compressed version to have an awareness. When it comes into the physical product, I know that I want that relationship to last forever. And that journey is like a 3-year journey. And so I'm going to use each step independently to frame that journey and create a relationship and create endowment, right? And so this happens across the board. But when I asked you to stay with me at 30,000 feet, the reason is that you do this naturally by accident. And when you can do it intentionally, it changes the game. And so Elias does this by getting on Zoom calls. He acknowledges everybody for being here. He prepares the field for 5 minutes. He lets you know what to expect. He tells you what's going to happen at the call and what you'll be able to achieve. He pre-handles objections by being like, we want your camera on. We want you to pay attention. Please mute yourself. And he's like, hey guys, now that we're prepped and ready to go, George is up to speak. So Elias did it at the beginning of this call. And then I guarantee you he'll do it at the end of the call. And when he does it at the end of the call, it will give you next steps and things to do. And so you can see it in application here. And so before you ever get obsessed about, well, is it 1 per day or is it here? The question is, am I just even hitting these principles with my people? Because all of us, if we were ever committing to something, if we were ever buying something, if we were ever opting in for something, we would want somebody to acknowledge us, to let us know what was coming, to remind us what's possible, to help us navigate any speed bumps that might get in the way. And then to be like, hey, by the way, this is the most prepared you've ever been for this evolution. So let's just go finish it so we can move on to the next, right? And so those 5 steps are the most important steps, right? So I can tell you this in utter confidence. If you do not create those 3 mistakes or make those 3 mistakes and just have an awareness of them, and the worst point that you get to is like, hey, Elias, holy shit, I'm making this mistake and I don't know how, and he talked about these steps and here's my idea. He's most likely going to laugh at you and be like, yeah, that's the exact idea. Go do that thing. Because what you have to remember is that relationships are all about context to 80% of the game and 20% content. So for example, some of us here are married and we could all agree that communication and integrity and empathy and compassion and intimacy are all very, very important in marriage, right? They're foundational principles. But if Elias tells me how to go be empathetic towards my wife, she's going to feel unsafe and unseen in the same way that his wife would feel safe and seen, or vice versa, because the context and the principles are the science. The application is the art, right? Customer journeys, this is the science. These are the things that are actually needed at a human level, deeper than any transaction, straight to the core. And this is neurolinguistic programming, hypnosis, conscious psychology, trauma-informed psychology, mixed into customer journey because that's my work. But it gets people at the deepest level, but it's the science. The art is how you do it. I am really good on video. I love being on video. I am a people person. I am like a parrot. You give me a cue, I will talk all day, right? So for me, that works well. But I have a lot of analytical people that are clients that are numbers and data geeks and backends. And what's really, really funny is they love recording videos as long as there's a screen of numbers in front of them and their audience loves it. Some of them like sending audio. Some of them like taking a picture with the person's name on a sticky note and just sending a selfie. But even then, that's them applying these same principles in a way that feels the best for them in the relationship that they're building. So Elias, I feel like I'm going to land there because that was a compressed amount of content.
I mean, look at the reactions down below, look at the chat, look at everyone's, faces. There's a few things that I wanted to focus on before I open the mic up to everybody.
And I don't have a hard stop, so I'm here. I'm good.
Cool. If you guys are okay with going for a few minutes, if you have to bounce, you got to bounce. I get that. But a couple of things that you said that really stood out to me, and it really helps me to analyze not only from how I'm going to coach individuals, how I'm going to coach teams, how I'm going to coach groups, but also for our team members and how they're approaching this process with the consumer. For example, when we acknowledge, first and foremost, Maria, I'm so excited for you and for the family and for Gizmo and your guys' journey in home ownership. Here's a couple of things that we're going to help you get prepared with. So whether it's now or 6 months or a year down the road, I want you to create a Dropbox file. The Dropbox file is going to hold all of your necessary documents that you're going to need, with all of your copies of your driver's license, your W-2s, all of your tax information. So that is all stored in one place. That way it's easy. So you're not trying to scramble and put all those things. So we're going to help you prepare those things and get super organized. That way things are not in disarray as you go through this. Third, this is going to be a stressful time. And I understand the emotions that you're going through. This is a big choice. This is a big decision. It's a big move. There's a lot of money coming out of your bank account at one time. I just want you to know that I'm here for you. Here's some tea. Here's some sage. And I just want you to have a moment in calmness when things feel a little bit stressful. I want you to relax for a moment and know that I'm going to be on your side. And as we go through this, think about this and always keep this in mind that you're projecting, and this is me projecting. I want you to think about what this is going to do and how this is going to impact your family, and never lose sight of that having them grow up in this house, go to that school, have their families, ride their bikes in this cul-de-sac, and be able to build generational wealth. As you go through this process, there is going to be some times where you're going to have some doubts, you're going to have some trepidations, you're going to get nervous, all of those things, and that's okay. But I want to make sure that you guys know that I'm so excited, you guys are excited, and I'm going to be here every step of the way to educate you. And here's why this is important. I said this to George last week, and I learned this, I don't know where from, but in the absence of proper communication, stories are formed. There's a reason why you, as a realtor, as us, as an industry, have a very low consumer rating. The reason why we have a low consumer rating is because not enough people focus on this part of it, the human part, connecting with the human and making sure that they are involved and there's communication throughout over communication. Because the moment when there's a lapse in communication, what do? They form a story. Now that story could be negative and you're not even doing anything negative, but you allowed them space to create their own story because you didn't communicate with the things that you know that they're thinking about. So this process helps you really look at it in a deeper way and say, man, I know that my consumers have buyer remorse. I know it. But I never talk about it. I never address it. I never talk about the emotional roller coaster that they're going to be on over the next 30 days. I just don't even mention it.
And
but
Elias,
imagine,
I gotta give you kudos, and for everybody listening. So first, Elias made some points, and I think it's important that all of you understand the why. Go read the book Contagious by Jonah Berger. Go read the book Contagious by Jonah Berger, and trust me, Dom and Norm and people who know me, I will not talk to you as a friend unless you've read these books. I'm not joking. Contagious is the why and what happens in the human beings and why they share things and what is inspiring them to share and what they default to because they only share for humor, credibility, education, social status, or controversy. And in lieu of giving them the first four, the only default reticular activating system for a human that's left is bonding over trauma and controversy because that space is there. The book, The Catalyst, is how it gets in the way of certain things and a lot of customer journey here. And so Elias, I can't stress enough the power of what you're saying for everybody listening. What people don't understand is that like 95% of the people who consume and share your content are the ones who will never buy, but they're the ones responsible for finding all of the other buyers. And they're the ones that we ignore, that we don't pay attention to, that we don't respond to because they don't have a credit card attached. Well, you have to recognize that everybody is valuable, and the most valuable people you have in your business are the ones that haven't bought. Like, for example, Elias has never exchanged $1 with me. Norm has never exchanged $1 with me. Dom has never exchanged $1 with me. But from prioritizing the relationship, it's led to 16 of these calls and keynotes and things and osmosis that if I was like, Elias, no, man, I can totally help you. Give me your money right now. Number one, his walls would have been up because he sees through bullshit like there's nobody's tomorrow. And it would look like every other asshole out there that was doing it that gave keynotes. And so automatically I'd be game over and game out. But you have to understand that this is literally ripe pickings for everybody because it is the biggest blue ocean everywhere because people are convinced that width is the secret, but it's not, it's depth. And when you understand this, and even Elias, the mastery of this game just comes down to mastering simplicity. And it's when Elias went into, and we've talked about these examples, but like creating the Dropbox folder and creating the single source of truth is what I call it, right? In the very early stages, when someone's like, I want to buy my home in the first year, they just need to know the word Dropbox. They don't need to know what I'm putting in it. They don't need to know any of it because I'm just simplifying it down. So here's a really easy tell. If any of you have kids under the age of 8 or have ever had a kid under the age of 8, you are the best in the fucking world at building customer journeys. You just don't realize it yet. And here's the one example that I teach that will break down these 5 steps in magical form for you to make sense. So my son is 6 years old, right? He's his own wild kingdom. He got the most aggressive parts of my wife and I with none of the insecurities, right? I'm getting punished relentlessly for how I was a child, okay? But every morning we have to leave the house at the same time and we have to do the same things every morning, right? So as my 6-year-old who wakes me up at God ass crack of dawn because the sun doesn't like to set or stay down in Montana during the summer, we have like 22 hours of daylight, right? He comes to me and he's like, all right, Dad, it's time to wake up at 6:30. Option 1 is I'm like, all right, man, I need you to go brush your teeth, brush your hair, make and eat your breakfast, put your clothes on, get your backpack, and meet me at the car at 7:30, right? Parents, chances of success, 0, 0, right? But then you flip it and you're like, hey, bud, we're going to leave for school in an hour and we have these 6 things to do. But here's all I need you to do. I just need you to go brush your hair and then eat your breakfast as I make it. And then we'll figure out what the next step is. Oh, and by the way, when you run in the bathroom, it's not playtime. I just need you to brush your hair. You got 5 minutes, right? And then I do that. And all I do is 3 times throughout the morning, just remind him like, oh, you're done with your breakfast. Oh, you should put your shoes on. Oh, you should get your bag ready. And then magically, with 3 reminders, we're out the door 15 minutes early every day, where in scenario 1, we never made it out the door. That is a customer journey. That is the best way that I can explain it to you, that I can teach it to you, and that I can show you. And so if you can see that, it will change the way that you do business. And so for me, and as bad as this sounds, I am the biggest fucking 6-year-old in the world, and I am a horrible person to put in a customer journey, right? The paradox is real. And my friends and the people that I pay and the ones that I use, the best ones are the most simplified 6-year-old versions that guarantee me success. And so when you can think like that and you can chunk those things down, the game starts to get really, really easy. But the muscle that you have to become very, very familiar with is stillness and patience. Because 99% of the time we knew these answers, but we wanted people to go at a different speed than they were ready. And we're the ones that get in the way. And that's where the game is really won. So I had to say that, Elias.
I love it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to open up for 5 people for Q&A, but just communicating with George, even in a text message I sent him this morning about what to expect for this, I literally looked at his notes from last week. I'm like, okay, how can I, all right, couldn't be more excited. Okay, cool. How do I prepare him? What am I projecting? Did I pre-handle anything? And with some excitement. Like I literally looked at that process and like, how can I even put that into writing with him? So love this. Let's go Otis, let's go Vernon, and let's get a couple more hands up because I know you guys have thoughts, insights, and contributions. So O-Dog, let's go to you, big dog.
Man, thank you. From last week, really knowing the disc profile and like understanding people until this week, George, having you, I mean, like you seen me, I was so interacted, the whole thing, shaking my head. Like everything you said, like when I first started until today, I take a lot of online leads, and a lot of agents don't like that, but I do, because like you said, they came to me, they already know kind of what they want. They gave me a basis, a home to go off. So we kind of already blend. And then that just progressed off of being in rich relationships. And I think that a lot of people, whether you're beginning or you're at the top, you get lost in transactions, especially if you're doing a lot. So you get too robotic. And my thing is, it's a process to any success that I had in my life is just treating people good, nurturing that relationship. Hey man, how's the kids? You know, hey man, we ain't talked in like a year. I just wanted to see what's up. And just off of that, like I had a childhood friend. We went to middle school, high school together. In the Air Force, got a lender buddy that's out in Vegas, and they got tons of clients out here in the Bay Area. So just having that relationship, just over the last 3 weeks, his lender sent me like 8 clients, and that's straight Sphere clients off of just working predominantly online leads. And I just can't say how big enough having that bar of set of the acknowledge, prepare, project, pre-handle, and excite. That gives me a better tonality of how to come to my consumer base. So thank you so much for that.
Of course,
of course. Someone who's been the last 10 years and doing a lot of social media marketing and stuff like that, the way you broke it down for a lot of people is it's 99% of what you say, and it's not about what it looks like. But then a lot of people are getting lost in today's times where, you know, I'm gonna just follow the gravy train. So sticking out, being authentic, and having something to say. And then the marketing, like it's so key. People forget why you market. You're marketing for attention. So I just want to say thank you for bringing all that stuff. I love the podcast. It reminds me of when we started our podcast, like the same couch, even the lighting, we even got the same plant right there. So totally feeling the vibes, man. I can listen to you talk all fucking day, bro.
I love it, man. And it's an honor. And to hear you apply that and get that so quickly, it's huge. And for everybody listening, if you resonated with any of this, there's a book, and I would have you read this book because it probably resonates with how you operate, and it's a really easy read. It's like an hour and a half. It's called The Go-Giver by Bob Burg and David Mann. The original one is The Go-Giver. The second and third ones are like The Go-Giver Leader, The Go-Giver Parent, but start with the first one. And what I have found, and you nailed this, and this is applicable for everybody, what ends up happening is we become a victim of the business, right? Business creep takes in. And that transaction and the mud, what it ends up doing is fogging our relationship with why we started this in the beginning, right? We call it constraint and noise. And no matter what happens, This is the secret to scaling a business. And I want everybody to write this down. Scale comes from subtraction, not addition. Scale comes from subtraction and not addition. And what I mean by that, and this is what most people bump into, is they get convinced that the business isn't working, so they have to add more and more. But what they end up doing is they add more complexity that gets in the way of the 3 things that worked in the beginning, rather than cutting out the rest of it and then going deeper in those buckets. And I'm going to cut the noise right now. You will not build a heart-centered, multi-million-dollar impactful community by trying to buy yourself out of relationships. It's going to be by automating everything that prevents you from being in them and spending more time building them, because the systems and buckets are in place to have people feel cared for at the core level. Because no matter which way you slice it, every ounce of most of your businesses comes from connection. And the one thing that gets cut off the plate the moment shit gets hard is connection. And then you wonder why the business is suffering. All that noise, all that complexity was getting in the way of the things that worked. Because if I took any of your businesses and I let you look at it from the outside and I said, find me the 3 things that they did every day that guaranteed they made the money with Pareto's principle, you would see them clear as day. Yep. When I did this many connection calls, when I treated people like this, and when I made X phone calls, but yet everybody will also call me and be like, I don't know how to scale. You do, but you have to understand that scale comes from going deeper in the buckets that were already working and mastering them, not adding more buckets.
God, powerful. Vernon, you've been chomping at the bit, big dog. And then I'm going to close out with MJV. I don't know you yet, bro, but I've watched your engagement, your excitement, and your chat. I'm going to close out with you. So Vernon Williams, let's go to you, rapid fire, then we'll go to MJV.
Scale comes from subtraction, not addition, Chelsea. I saw your comment.
Man, that is extremely powerful. George, thank you for your contributions to the call, man. I've just been blessed tremendously. Coach Elias, gratitude for always bringing top tier shit to the group. I'm just honored to be here, but man, so much pages of notes, right? So much information to be directly applied. I'm literally going to apply some of this to, I'm having inspections for a property that we're in contract with, and I'm going to apply this to my buyer like as soon as I get off this.
Yep.
Call, right?
Oh God, like that makes me excited. Like that's my nerdy little heart, is like when people start going with it. And then I start getting the messages. I'm like, bro, you'll never believe it. I left a dog treat for Fido and then they listed 2 more homes. I'm like, oh, isn't it funny? Like the simple things in life.
Yeah.
Well, George, really quick, Lisette, if I can have you just pull up what's behind you. They've been working on their consumer journey over the last couple of weeks. They're business partners. And right behind her, you'll see Lisette Miranda. There's some of her notes of all of the brain dumping that they've been doing, working on their consumer journey over the last couple of weeks.
I love it. All right, big dog, give me the goods. What you got?
Okay, Coach Elias, this question is more so related to you, and I want to find it's around processes and applications of the 5 principles as it relates to a process. Take the buyer's consultation, because what George was feeding us is that we don't want to give them all this information, you know, upon initial engagement. Well, it literally bombards them with all this shit, and they may be like, oh man, you know, how do we apply the 5 principles that are required to a buyer's consult? How do we play chess with that as it relates to our core approach, which is the relationship and tapping into the human depth of an individual? How does that mix, man? Give it to me.
So I'm going to give it to you real. I want everyone on this call to literally paraphrase that. And when you paraphrase that, you're able to put things into your own words, but I want you to set that up. Be like, hey, Vernon, there's a lot of stuff on the screen right now. There's a lot of words. What I'm going to do is I'm going to paraphrase some of this so it really connects with you and resonates with you and is applicable to your family. Is that okay? Second thing I'd like to do for you is I'd like to record this session, and then my transcription is going to timestamp this. So you'll have a section for buyer contingencies. That way you and your wife can go back and reference that. Is that okay? I send that to you. Wonderful. I'm going to hit record. Now you have this as a reference point. So keep this as a guide. So 2, I paraphrase this. I let them know that we're going to cover a lot of information, but I'm going to simplify it. Also, I'm going to record this and I'm going to timestamp that. That way you have this as a reference point and you can always come back to that. And then Vernon, Third part of that is that recording is now for you. Go back and listen to that recording and ask yourself, how well did I connect with them through this? How well did I take this and apply it to what they were going through or what they could be potentially going through in the next couple of weeks or next years or how long it's going to take for them to get into contract? Apply that to the human, record it, give them the notes to it, and then set the stage. And you already do this really well. You have an amazing way of connecting with people.
I have one note on that. Here's the thing. It's just about simplifying it down like a coach, right? So like we know that like in the process, there's hundreds and hundreds of things that people need to know and to do, but what they want is the outcome. So you don't even have to be like, we're going to record this on contingencies, boom, boom, boom. You're like, no. We have everything for the core functions you'll need, and we just call it this, and we'll help you fill it in, right? It's what people want to hear is that you have a plan. They don't want to hear about the details of the plan. Like if you go to a Michelin star restaurant, you're not paying for me to teach you every which way I broke down the ingredient. You just want to taste that ingredient on the plate, and that's the experience you're here for. So the mistake that we make is we don't realize the reactants we're creating in people by over divulging what we know they're going to go up against anyways, and we know we're going to solve for them, but we create more reactants than needed. And so for me, like with the Dropbox and Elias's example earlier, it's like when you meet somebody, it's like, yeah. And one of the things we realized is that when people start buying homes, there's documents and things that they need forever that they'll use for taxes and everything else. And we call it the single source of truth. And don't worry about it because we're going to build it for you, and it'll have one folder for you that you can access anywhere. I don't need to tell them that the license is going in, the taxes are going in, the outcomes are going in, the income statements are going in. Because the moment I just tell them I have a place and will help, when those things come up and they send them to me, I can put them in there and be like, oh, and by the way, here's your single source of truth. Look, you've collected all of this information that you didn't even think that you had. So what people need is they just need to know that you have a plan. You have a workout, you have a way to summarize it and simplify it, but they don't need every step of the process. They need the outcome only.
Thank you.
Love it. And let's go to MJV. My man, what's your name? I'm Elias. Thank you for being here. How'd you learn about the program? First off, how'd you get here? And then let's hear your contributions and thoughts.
First of all, I want to say I appreciate you both for providing all this gem for all of us. My real name is just MJ. That's it. I only got 2 letters. That's about it.
I'm just George, so I'll take it, man.
No, I mean, I learned from Jermaine and Jerry Cigaris. The moment they saw that, they're like, hey, come join. We learned from George Bryant last week from Play Bigger. And I was like, hell yeah. So the fact that, I was able to sit here for an hour and just listening, like I said on the chat, I wish this was the first thing I heard as I started real estate, because it's so, it's just relating to the client more than transactional. Because I George, if you kept going, it started to go back to me like, damn, that's probably how I lost X, Y, and Z. That's probably why they ghosted me in the first place. Because I was so, hey, this is like, I even told Jermaine, my introduction email, it's 2,000 plus words. Now I realize that shit. I'm like, that's overwhelming. So it's definitely an eye opener, and I'm glad that I joined. And I see that you're wearing Woke on your wrist, and my stress level right now, my app is so high because I'm so excited to just go through the wall, man. So
I love it. And I want to say something to what you said for you and for everybody listening. The important thing to remember is that the moment that fault, blame, guilt, or shame enters into your brain, you've already lost. And it's really easy to be like, oh, I lost them for this reason, or this is why they ghosted me. You couldn't have seen it at that time. Constraint does interesting things, right? Like integrity is not something that you live in. Integrity is only the place you're paying attention and bringing it back into. And so when you have these thoughts, I'm telling everybody listening to this, my job as a coach is to mirror you so that I can hear those thoughts, remove the emotion, because then that's the plan on how to fix it all. And so the moment you see these things and you're like, oh my God, that's why they ghosted, or, oh, this is 2,000 words long. Why doesn't matter. What happened in the past doesn't matter. That is the check engine light being like, oh, Yeah, so if you fix this one from this point forward, it's in integrity. And that's the invitation for everybody. That is the way that this is done. It is not cleaning out the pantry. It is not throwing it in the trash. It's being like, holy shit, we built a cool restaurant and people are still coming to eat. But there's some holes that we didn't see because we were just trying to get people at the tables. Well, now that we have them at the tables, let's keep them there and get them excited to bring other people in. But I will tell you that 100% of the success of this game comes down to how you choose to see the game. And what most people choose to see as broken are invitations for scale. You just have to love the process and not make yourself bad and wrong for not knowing what you now know.
Wow. You guys, we're going to close out on this.
We have to, because I'm apparently late for another call, but either way,
All right.
I'm good.
So let me wrap. Let me wrap. This group started a little over 2 years ago, and I see Kevin Magna on here, and Kevin Magna was one of our early, let's call them adopters. We would do script role play sessions 3 times a week, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It didn't even have a name. It didn't even have an identity. And now it's grown to what it is today. And at one time there was over 120 people on this call. And I'm just sitting here completely in gratitude and humble because of you guys and what you contribute. And then I'm thinking about my relationships and how I've become relationship rich because of just simply meeting people, going to conferences, shaking hands, asking questions. And so thank you, George, for being here and spending this hour and a half with us. I could not tell you how much this means to us, but thank you to everybody on this call. Because you guys show up because there is a hope that something is going to be powerful and impact you as a human. And that's what we always want to create. I want to create an opportunity for us to challenge your thoughts, to be a provoker of thoughts, to be a provoker of change, and to really tap into the human. Because my thought is that how can I make you great agents without making you great humans first? And sometimes we just need a little bit of a check-in or a checkup from the neck up. And so thank you guys for allowing this space to work and to happen and for contributing and being a part of this. So if you guys took pictures, videos, or anything, please make sure to tag me. Tag George. It's George Bryant on Instagram. Let's blow up our social today. And as always, you guys, keep it moving towards your dreams, goals, and vision, and get out there and have an amazing day. Peace. Peace.